This is What a week.
What a week. PoliTricks.
Eta, welcome to another edition, another episode, another day of Wow, What a Week of PoliTricks with Botsang Modimowame Moiloa. Brother B.
Brother Fresh, good morning. How's it, bro?
Nice shoes. Are you meeting your bank manager?
I heard Kelito praising you for the shoes earlier on. I haven't worn these shoes in 3 years.
Yeah.
I actually didn't like them. But because she said they are nice, I'm going to wear them often.
You know what they call those shoes? You know what they call those shoes? They call those shoes, we're not a registered company, Kitsorime.
No, man, that are not these ones, man. They're not like these. These are different ones.
Now, before we get into politics, you Volos had a opinion on traditional marriages.
Yes?
Yes. Didn't you also write a book about it?
Yeah, my upcoming, remember it's 2 books coming.
Yes.
And one is based on, and the only reason I couldn't publish it because I had one of my traditional marriages case to end.
Okay.
So it's about customary law.
Okay.
In South Africa.
And what are your issues with customary law?
My issues is customary marriages were actually meant to regulate the so-called African people marriages. That was the intention. That's why the act is called Recognition of Customary Law Act. Understand that marriage? It's recognition. It's a 98 recognition of customary law.
Sure.
But when you look at it, it actually failed to do what was intended to do. It disadvantaged more people. That's why it's forever being changed.
Yes.
And amended because it still disadvantaged women, especially those who were married in the traditional customary way from rural areas. But now they have turned it around, in my view. They've turned it around to disadvantage men.
Okay.
And then they've pushed it to an extent that you can now not just recognize, you can register it. A customary marriage, then it becomes a common law marriage. Like people who married customarily now, they can walk into Home Affairs and register their customary marriage. So they're diluting that whole thing. And I've got issues with it. The other thing also is that people get customary married in rural areas or in villages, then they go to a chief or the communities involved. But once they separate, then you go to a court of law. You understand? Then this law that was not applied when you are married, it's applied when you are separating or when you have issues. And that is my challenge with it.
So how did it disadvantage either you or your ex-wife?
I don't know if she was disadvantaged. How was it disadvantaged?
Well, one of you must have been for you to want to write a book about it.
For me to be disadvantaged was actually, it's a very funny story actually. Yeah. So I ended up writing a book about it. And I interviewed other parties that I know they went through the same, like the WHP family.
Sure.
And all that. For me is basically, Tata, why do you want me to sell my book on that set? I was married in absentia.
Okay.
And in basic common law, you cannot marry in absentia. You have to be there.
If you're not present, there can't be
marriage.
The ceremony is not complete.
Exactly my point. That's why I've actually titled the new book, The Groom That Never Was.
Okay, so customarily, in your absence,
yes,
the process was completed.
Yes.
Wow.
Without my authorization. Secondly, in my absence. You know, it was so funny in court. I end up laughing because then they push this thing that customarily or traditionally, when black people marry, you don't have to be there.
Oh yes, as long as we're all there, as long as we're gathered.
As long as they're gathered.
And elders from both sides are saying, li, 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 li.
That's the nonsense they told me. I'm like, hell no. It can't be. That's the nonsense there. You know, the magistrate at the lower court ruled in her favor.
Oh, wow.
Understand? To say, no, but some of your parents were there and they admit that they were there. And I'm like, but where was I?
So he's saying as long as there's a mukete or a celebration and both families are there, there's consent.
Yes, but one of the things that I tell people, and you know, this I speak strongly about customary marriages.
Sure.
It's that it has 4 elements, if not 5. One, the two parties must be adults. You must be of age to
Yes.
agree. Two, the two parties must have agreed to a customary type of marriage. Because you've got the common law marriage, you've got the religious marriage, and you've got this one, the union, the living together.
Or
whatever.
the civil union.
Yes, civil union. Now, you must have agreed to a customary marriage, that type. 3, there must be the lobola negotiations and that process.
Sure.
Even if you paid lobola in full, you are not married. You are not.
Okay.
The celebration must happen. There must be the slaughtering, the celebration. It has to happen.
Okay, so the celebration is basically the consummation of the fee.
Exactly.
And it's the exclamation mark at the end.
Exactly. However, my argument was...
But what if there's no celebration? Then we're not married.
You're not married when there was no celebration, because it's one of the prerequisites of a customary marriage. The customary union must be celebrated.
Okay.
Because look, for an example, when we marry Kastswana,
Sure.
actually your mother and father are normally not even there.
Yes.
Your Rachadi and Malume, uncle and aunt, are the one who are leading the negotiations.
Exactly.
So basically, your parents haven't met the group, the bride. Now, after the celebration, the law, it's even clear. You are still not married, even celebrated. There must be the handing over of Makoti
Yes.
to the groom's family. And that was the debate in my family, that where was Makoti handed over? Because my mom was like, this never happened. My dad was like, I received a Makoti.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Who won?
Who were in court
Yeah,
or
in court.
them.
In court.
She won at the lower court. I took it to the high court, and I won at the high court. Actually, I didn't win. Well, I was going to. But the problem is, like I told you the other time, I dragged it so long that she ended up saying,
Leave it.
let's leave this whole thing. Let really keep. But let me tell you the danger of it.
Yeah.
Then I lost my job. And then I said, oh, by the way, we're married in committee of property.
Exactly.
That's where things turned around. You understand? So you see where I'm saying the customary law, it's unjust, it's unfair.
Sure.
Because now I was a husband that she wanted or she claimed when I was well off and working.
Yeah.
The minute I'm have no income and I'm in red,
She doesn't know you.
she doesn't know me. She doesn't want this thing. She wanted to end quickly, and she signed. We never even went to court. I was sitting at home the other day. The sheriff came and delivered settlement. I called my lawyer. He's like, don't even sign it.
You didn't demand spousal support.
No, I could have done that at that time. I should have demanded support and half of her assets and half of her pension.
Exactly.
But I don't have time for that.
Sure. No, the reason I'm asking
Yeah.
is because this past week on Monday, I met my future in-laws.
Hey, this guy.
My daughter is getting married at the end of the year. So basically her fiance's family.
Oh, you shocked me. You understand future in law. I'm thinking you are getting married.
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
they started the whole process
Okay.
of we have intentions and you must expect us soon
Oh, yes.
to make our intentions clear. And I was like, here we go.
To my mina, bro.
Yeah.
Expert is sitting here.
The thing is, generally, for instance, in Setswana culture, there isn't a window to be exploitative when it comes to negotiating lobola.
Yes.
Because if you have paid like a lot of lobola, generally, it's like 10 head of cattle. Generally, most tribes is between 6 and 8, or the cash equivalent. It never turns into a, but we sent her to school, therefore you must pay $100,000.
Yeah, a lot of guys that I know married in Botswana, they say it's easy process. It's not quantified with cash.
Like I said, it's not exploitative. It's not turned into a cash making.
Depends. How much is it's a cow? If you say 10, what if one it's 20,000?
But it's not though. Generally, we agree as families that we're gonna say one head of cattle is $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000.
That's nice. You know,
But it's never prohibitive such that now you are limping going in.
maybe next time when I maybe I must cross the border to my grandmother's land. You know, in Rwanda,
Yeah,
to marry, it's one cow.
yeah,
And if you have a child, a man with respect
sure.
can say, I'm giving 2.
Ah,
Because this lady has a child, whether it's my child or not.
It doesn't
But
matter.
it's one, but they are very specific. It must be a milking, it must be a cow, not a bull.
Yes.
And it must be a certain age and all that.
Yeah, because it must obviously bear calves
Exactly.
and the wealth multiply. Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm thinking the viewers are wondering what are these two up to today?
Unfortunately, even within civil unions and marriage, there's politics.
There's politics. Ask me.
And PoliTricks.
There's tricks when they're supposed to have been wife wakes up after 5 years and says, by the way, I want a divorce. Because that's how I got to know that I'm married.
Yeah.
I was sitting at home. Me and this person had separated for how long? It was 2015. We separated in 2010 or 2011. And I was sitting at work and the sheriff walked in and said,
You've been served.
you've been served. I'm like, what did I do now? And I said, I don't know, I'm a postman. And I opened this and said, divorce. What divorce? Who am I married to now? I've got a very interesting life. I was so upset.
Your life should be a movie, not a...
Don't worry, a movie's coming.
In fact, speaking of civil or uncivil unions, what is happening with Mzwanele MANYI,
Yes.
former Jimmy MANYI, and the MK party?
Why do you guys like calling my friend a former?
He's former Jimmy.
Hi, man. Call him Mzwanele MANYI.
Now he doesn't answer to Jimmy.
I think he's right. Look, Mzwanele, I don't know why there's a whole fanfare about it and noise about him being removed. There are people who are making allegations that Dr. Hlophe, remember Dr. Hlophe, the former judge president of the Western Cape, is the deputy leader of Umkhonto weSizwe party. And he's actually, if you look at it, running the organization, when you look at the age of President Zuma and the health. So people are saying, Dr. Hlophe, it's payback time. Remember what happened during the State of the Nation address?
Yeah.
When they gave Dr. Hlophe a last-minute statement.
Or to go read in front
To go
of
and read, and it had errors, and it was just a mess. It was a complete mess. And Dr. Hlophe had said at that time, he was given that statement by Mzwanele MANYI, who was until during the week, the MKP chief whip.
Yes.
To then read it, and he said it's from President Zuma. And with those errors, it was very clumsy, if you recall what happened. We didn't expect such from Dr. Hlophe. And he trusted them. But they say it's Mzwanele MANYI who misled him and who actually shoved that thing into him and claimed President Zuma's name and all that. Look, that's what people are saying on the site. But I personally think there's more to this, Tato. One has to look, and people think it's because of the infighting in Umkhonto weSizwe. I doubt if it's that. There's no infight. Mzwanele is very close to President Zuma. He was one of the people who worked very hard to form Umkhonto weSizwe, even when he was sitting in the EFF and all that. I don't think people who have been in politics like him, he has been in 4 or 5 political parties, and I don't think people who have been in politics like him do not know that there's no permanent positions in politics. You can be removed and shuffled any day that the political party desires. But I think Umkhonto weSizwe is planning to govern or to be a leading party in the country, a seriously leading party, number 2, if not number 1.
Sure.
By using people who are, one, not politically tainted.
Okay.
If you look at Colleen Makwela, she's got a very clean background.
Okay, so Colleen is the newly appointed chief whip.
Is the newly appointed. Colleen Makwela is the newly appointed chief whip.
Yeah.
But she's an academic. She's well educated. She doesn't have a dark cloud of political background.
She has a history also in public administration.
She's got history, very good history in public administration. She's the former mayor and speaker of the city of Johannesburg. And I think what Umkhonto weSizwe is doing, it's placing experts according to their fields in strategic position.
Okay.
So there's a woman who's a chief whip. She's young, she's educated, she's a good administrator. And I think she will do better there than Mzwanele, not taking anything away from Mzwanele, because she has been a speaker,
Sure.
albeit in a city council. But we have seen her. Me and you, we hosted her here when she was campaigning for that other political party that she was leading.
For that formation, yes.
Yes, it was a formation actually, yes. So of various political parties. I think it's a strategic move
Sure.
that Umkhonto weSizwe is doing. But also, Mzwanele MANYI is more of a technocrat than a politician. That position as a chief whip, it needs a politician, somebody who has, politics background as well, who can balance the forces, who can stand in front of the chief whip of the ANC or of the DA and challenge them politically. Mzwanele is a technocrat. He's like me. He will get emotional. Let me tell you, if I go to parliament, I'm sure I'll be thrown out almost every day because I'll be showing people the middle finger. You understand? And I don't think there's anything untoward that MKP's or Mzwanele has done something wrong. I think they are just, enforcing their leadership in parliament. And he's also very well known, Mzwanele, as a grassroots worker. I've seen him with Brown Molefe, one of their MPs, being on the ground, and they've got constituencies that follows them, whether it's in business, whether it is in residential areas where they live. I think Mzwanele will do much more better if they give him a work or allocation to can go and rally business people. Remember, he was at some stage the leader or the CEO of Black Management Forum.
Yes.
So that background may be used there because Controversies has many, many segments. They've got the labor segment, they've got the business segment, and I think their planning is proper. If you follow their politics and their planning, what they are doing behind the scenes, I think they're doing very well in strengthening the organization. While other parties are focusing only in parliament, you don't have to focus only in parliament when you're already the official opposition. You must focus on the next coming elections. And I think there's two political parties in South Africa that are doing very well in preparing for LGE, local government elections. It is the Democratic Alliance and Controversies. I think they're already working the ground. You can see them week in, week out. They've got rallies, they've got meetings, they've got little things they're doing there. And these MPs of them, they go to their constituencies every month. They don't wait for that government open period to go to say it's time for MPs to go to their constituencies.
So they stay working the ground.
They're still working on the ground. And I think it's the strategy they're applying. Look, I personally don't take anything. If I was an Controversies member, I would actually be happy that Colleen has moved into that position, knowing her and knowing the capabilities of Mzwanele. You also want to stabilize that. People used to call Controversies a party, a club of frustrated ANC people or criminals or people. So you want to dilute that. You want to remove this negative.
So dilute the negative optics of why are so many of your people, in inverted commas, tainted.
Exactly. You understand that? I think that's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
You don't want to sit with a bunch of frustrated people there, or people who are seen to be disgruntled. That's the way I want it. You don't want to sit with a bunch of only disgruntled people and angry people, as they are being called, or dismissed people, charged people, suspected people. You also want to bring a flavor of women. Want to bring people without tainted backgrounds and who have, much cleaner political backgrounds.
Makes sense.
That's my opinion and view.
So the other day, we hung out with Communications Minister MALATSI.
Yes.
And I'd asked him if he thought the DA will ever get that 50%. And he said they've generally made peace with the fact that they might not get 50%, but they will always get enough to be able to form some sort of government with other parties.
Yeah.
Do you think the MK will get that 51%?
I've said no political party in South Africa in the next two elections, 2029 and 2034. I don't think there is a political party that will have an outright majority. I also actually even think the 40% or 39.8% that the ANC received in the last general elections of 2024, I don't think any other political party in the next elections is going to achieve that 40%. These political parties are too fragmented, and the nation is divided. And others are mushrooming, others are swallowing each other. The only time there will be a majority political party in South Africa, it's if one of the two major or 4 or 5 major parties, if two of them can merge like, for example, Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF or the ANC and the DA merge to form a political party, and people forget historical background. It is much more easier for Umkhonto we Sizwe and the ANC or Umkhonto we Sizwe and the EFF or EFF and the ANC to merge. It will be much more easier because they are children, they are breakaways than the DA and any other of the formerly known as black formations.
But what stops the ANC from recharming those that said we'd rather not vote and have them back voting to swell the numbers again?
Tato, there's various reasons. One, the people who are saying we are not voting are upset and disappointed with the performance of the ANC towards the majority of their voters. That's the first element. Second element is the factions inside the ANC. There's just too many factions. I mean, in this past week, I've had discussions with and meetings with a number of ANC members from the ground into leadership, and there are discussions of even people are worried about the 2027 ANC elective conference. And now people are already talking about it. People are already saying...
Is that the one where we're already seeing posters of
yes,
Patrice Motsepe for president?
Exactly. Yeah. There's Patrice Motsepe there, a very reliable, a very close friend of mine who is in the NEC of the ANC, was telling me that actually they are already being told on the sites in hotels and over whiskeys and golf that the president Ramaphosa, one, he has already made it clear he's not going to contest or stand. Two, he doesn't want Paul to succeed him. He wants to say, he's actually talking about, it's time to bring up a woman.
Okay.
And he's got one or two. The name of Nshaveni has already been making rounds. And some people are saying he may be pushing Angie Motseka. Some people are saying he may be pushing Mamoloko Kubai.
Okay.
Understand? To be the woman president. I know him, Mamoloko, and seeing a politician being the girl from Soweto. I don't think Mamoloko will want to contest Paul Mashatile. There's also those regional politics inside the party. We grew up Kokasi, those kind of politics. But let me tell you, during the week, I was in a meeting with some youth from the ANC. Actually, they said, don't come here and fish for your show here and ask questions. I will not mention. They were like, yeah, but why this guy is asking so questions? He's fishing for the show.
Yeah.
And one of them is a typical ANC Youth League leader. You know, he's a firebrand. He's a young lion. He's very upset. And he was telling me that he's not going to vote for any Ramaphosa's faction. And he's actually going to decampaign anything. And it's very powerful. You know, he's from the Free State. He says he's going to decampaign anything that smells Fikile Mbalul. I'm like, wow. And then there's two others there who are cousins. They're from the Eastern Cape. And they were saying the ANC is not going to get their votes the way the ANC it is like at the moment. And I'm like, why? And I was very impressed with the answer I got from these two other gentlemen who said it is because nobody in the ANC is holding each other accountable. One explained to me brilliantly, was saying, for example, you've got the Integrity Committee, and you've got the, what do you call it, the one that placing the committee that places people, Deployment Committee.
Yes.
Now, this is very interesting, you know, for me to have listened to that. This guy says to me, Botsang, the Integrity Committee and the Placement Committee or Deployment Committee, it's made up by NEC members. And NEC members, depending on your standing in the organization, when they elect each other, NEC members go to cabinet and to parliament according to the numbers. That's why people like Lindiwe Zulu and Bekitsele, they were left out because they couldn't make it to the numbers, okay? Yeah. Now this person was telling me to say, look how useless these committees are. They are formed by NEC members to deploy and to discipline NEC members. So they are actually watching themselves. You understand? There is no oversight committee within the organization to kind of hold each other accountable. And I think that's the problem with the ANC. It's not to say the ANC does not have competent and capable cadres. It is because the ones who are corrupt and thieves and incompetent are the ones who are deploying and watching each other. So it sidelines those who could be doing their job properly. You can't have an oversight. I mean, it's like in government having an internal control committee in a department, and there's no AG, the Auditor General, to oversee the performance and the conduct of government officials. And I think that's the challenge where the ANC will not be able to win the hearts of the people. People are very upset. People are disappointed. But again, and I've said this several times before, it is on record, and history has taught us that the former liberation movements turned political parties. Average is 25 years that they are in power. And it happened exactly with the ANC. After 25 years in power, the next elections, which was 30 years, they lost. You understand? They lost power. And we've been telling the ANC this story for all the years. We've been telling them that liberation movements last 25 years.
I remember I had a tea with Shaka Sisulu about 10 years ago. And I asked him about that does he not fear that the way things have generally panned out for other liberation movements is where the ANC is going? And he was very adamant that the ANC is different and that they will stay longer than is expected.
I had the same encounter, but not 10 years long ago. I remember it was the book launch of Robert McBride.
Oh, yes.
And the keynote speaker there was, I forgot the name of the gentleman. He was former and executive at South African Breweries. He said it. And you know, when that book was launched, around 2005, 2006.
Yes.
Now, that's 15 years back.
Almost 20
years back. 20 years back. I just forgot the name of that gentleman. He said it 20 years back. That the ANC, by 2025, it will lose elections. And it happened like that. So for me, it didn't come as a surprise, especially that when they were told and warned, and it was becoming glaring in front of them, they didn't come with mitigating processes to not fall into the same trap. They became more bold.
Sure.
You understand? They became more pompous. The corruption increased, and they actually disrespected the intelligence of their voters. They undermined the intelligence of the voters. And that's something that they could have taken a leaf from Robert Sobukwe. One of the very, very first papers that Sobukwe wrote in the formation of the PAC. And he actually used to say that when he was in the ANC Youth League, to say we must never underestimate and undermine the intelligence of an African man. Even if he's a layman, a farmer, or unschooled, never underestimate.
Because formal education is not a judge of anything.
Exactly.
Or a measure of anything.
It can
in the
aid you.
bigger scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, look at most of educated people with doctorates and masters and all that. Look at their performance and their life is a mess.
You can have a doctorate and still be a dumbass.
Yeah, honestly. So I don't think the ANC learned very well. And even today, after they have lost at 40%, I don't see them. They spoke of renewal.
Sure.
I don't see anything. Personally, I see them digging their grave further and further.
In fact, I remember on my show on Metro FM when I was doing Breakfast 2018, I spoke about that. That one thing the comrades could and should do is stop relying on the nostalgia. Because majority of the electorate are youth, and they have zero. They can't associate or relate to the nostalgia.
Yes.
So yes, the nostalgia for historical reasons is very important. But these are young people. They don't care that you were in the trenches together. They don't care that this is what happened in our time. They want to know about my struggle right now is this. And how do I, one, get involved in the party? And when do the people who are stuck on the nostalgia, when do they step back and say, okay, young lions, as it were, run?
Again, it has an element of lack of grooming and what do they call it, a generational mix in the leadership of the ANC. They did the generational mix at a very late stage. And even when you look at what is their generational mix, Remember, they are regarding people like Mamolo Kukubai, Fikile Mbalula, and who's the former Minister of Finance, Gigaba. They are regarding them as youngsters.
They're old.
They're old already when you look at the geopolitics.
No, they're actually very old.
They're old. I mean, Mamuluk is in her 40s. She's an old person. And the majority of the potential voters in South Africa are between the age of 18 and 37, 38. Those are the target. And these are the people that you should be targeting to be leaders.
Yes.
And that's why political parties like EFF will come and shock with the numbers first elections. That's why political party like Patriotic Alliance managed to be the fifth biggest party in the Republic of South Africa on first time they contest national, because look at the age of their leadership, including their leader, Gayton McKenzie. He's in his 50s, late 50s, understand? So now you have a leader of the ANC still in the 70s who's supposed to be on pension. And that's the challenge they are doing. And I've said before, this thing of leadership. Leadership that were born on because they were in the trenches and they have history in the organization, not the leadership you groomed over the years. And like I said, they do have potential leaders, even those they place now. Ronan Lamola is one of the typical examples that they did not cook and prepare them to be leaders. They pushed them into position. And you will learn, along those lines. They don't prepare them and groom them at a very young age. And with basic things, Tato, the other day, I don't know if I was communicating with you that, in the USA, children at primary school level, they are taught public speaking.
Yes.
At primary school. Now, imagine if you are grooming somebody to be a politician or to be a political office bearer. You may think Americans speak better on what? It's because they are trained. It's because they've been doing that from childhood.
That confidence is trained.
Exactly. And they will look like better politicians when they are on the public ground. They'll be more convincing.
Or more articulate, but it doesn't mean they're more intelligent.
Yeah, yes.
They just have a better command of the language they're using.
Convincing, except President Trump, all other American presidents.
Trump with his vocab of 30. He literally has a vocab of 30 words.
Yeah. So those are some of the challenges that political parties. But again, I don't know why political parties, they don't go outside the political party and get experts and as consultants, advisors. Ministers, when they get into political offices, they have advisors who are not necessarily members of their party, who don't think like them, who are experts in the field.
I think the DA do that very well.
Yes.
The DA are very good at finding the best person to help us with this here that might not necessarily be in the party.
Exactly. And look at the ANC. There are so many people who are actually giving ANC the answers. This is one platform that I know many ANC leaders look into and they pick up things there. But if they go and present that in front of their comrades start differing with them. Bring an outsider. They must have this, what we call it, boss berats and breakaway sessions, where an outsider will tell them where they are doing wrong without fear, because I get paid. If I get paid to go and tell them where they failed or what they do and how they should repair it, some of these things they know, but because it's them not trusting each other. And that's why the problem happens. Bring an outsider. I mean, when they had an opportunity in Mr. Ramaphosa in 2017 and taking over power in 2018, they spoke of the renewal. They had a window opportunity. What happened? They did the worst. There's more corruption under Ramaphosa. I mean, it has been proven. The AG has said there's rampant and the worst corruption in the previous administration than ever in the history of this country. So what does it do? It shows that they didn't do the right thing. And I said, there's more factions, there's more backstabbing, and again, there's nothing wrong in revamping your life, in taking a step back and say, I'm resetting this thing, I'm starting all over. With fresh blood, young people who can carry their organization forward. They are failing to do that. They are dismally failing to do that.
But also it's one thing to have people come and tell you about you. But until you can look in a mirror and be honest about what you see.
Yes.
Often it doesn't matter how many people tell you what they see. Until you see it, nothing's going to change.
Absolutely, Bob. Absolutely. And that's why they are lacking. They are lacking that. But again, I don't even think they are all lacking that. They don't reflect. I know a lot of ANC people who I hate, who want to save the organization, the movement. but because of the factions and not trusting each other and having this selfish personal interest. You see, having an organization or a political party that is full of political careerists, it's a problem when people take a political position as a career.
Sure.
You understand? And the majority of them, they see, I mean, look at their branches. Even President Mbeki and President Ramaphosa have both said in the past, the branches of the ANC are dead. They exist for people to be have proximity to the mayors, to the councillors. That's what they exist for. Understand? It's people who can get contracts and tenders to fund the organization. So that's all. It's no longer that political contest, and it's because the organization lost the direction along the lines. That's why they will end up with the Democratic Alliance as their partner. The most logical thing the ANC could have done to win back their members and for us, it could have said to the two breakaway. The latest two breakaway parties in the ANC is the EFF in 2013, is Umkhonto is in 2024. The most logical thing they could have done, they could have said, my kids come home.
Yeah.
And look at their numbers, 40, 15, and 10.
Yeah.
That's 65%. They would have been back where they were years ago.
Exactly.
Simple as that, and said, let's iron out our differences. Let's go back to basics. But egos and trustworthy people, money destroyed the ANC. That's one of the things that is the money. People who are there for money, not for the love of the organization and all that. But it's not only the ANC. The ANC just that it was in power and it's bigger. The same thing happened to liberation movements. Azapo died its natural death. The ideology is still there of black consciousness. The PAC is dead. And I don't see the PAC coming back.
Sure.
After a Nyonso joint led by Nyonso Group joining the GNU, I don't see it coming back. The ideology of Pan-Africanism will be there, but the political parties, they must just fold. It's going to happen like political parties that happen in the DRC, Kenya, and other countries.
Speaking of political parties, there is a new political party that you can actually almost smell around the corner.
Yes.
It's called the Islamic State of South Africa. So there's a Durban businessman, Farhad Huma. He's previously been accused of terror-related activities. The NPA, I don't know if they dropped or withdrew the charges.
Okay.
And he is saying that he wants to run and register his company with his party with the IEC so that they can contest the local government elections.
Okay.
And he feels that the only answer for this country right now is Sharia law under Islam and the death penalty being reinstated. And he says the only difference between us and the ACDP, Kenneth Mishwe, is that we are Muslim, they are Christians. But over and above that, we're based on the books that we believe in.
Well, he's got a point there. If you look at it, and even that Kenneth Mishwe has consistently secured 2 or 3 seats in parliament for all these years.
But isn't that the wildest thing? That in a majority Christian country, the Christian party is not trusted to run a government by those Christians?
Well, Khosi Lucas Manyane Mangope ran a Christian party to contest the Northwest elections, and he lost dismally to Popo Molefe.
Sure.
So Christians are also not trustworthy people when it comes to politics. I don't think Christians love politics. They love the church and God.
Sure.
I don't think they're interested in politics. But this gentleman, Tato, he is smart. That's what I can say now. He saw a vacuum. He's a typical businessman.
Sure.
He saw a vacuum. There is a vacuum. You know, there's been Islamic inclined what do you call it, political parties in the country like Al Jamal and all.
Yeah, Al Jamal.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, they are not as radical as he says he's going to do.
Exactly.
It. This is a very radical position, and there's no Islamic radical position, especially when he wants to put the Sharia law vis-a-vis democracy. Many of us have been saying democracy is not working for Africa.
Yes.
And I'm thinking he is seeing a political vacuum that he may occupy.
But I don't know if... Yes, I agree that democracy is not necessarily the best system for us. But I don't know if Sharia law is a better system.
No, I would not say it's a better or a bad system. But what I will say is there can be an appetite for somebody who's talking that language. He may get some numbers, especially when he is going to contest in local elections first. There's a vacuum there where in KZN, in Durban, we know that the Muslim community is very big in KZN, it's very big in the Western Cape, it's very big in Gauteng. And as in there's very big concentration of Muslim communities. And you know how Islamic or Muslim people are. They are fundamentalists. And as in they will support anything that is Islamic. In a sense. So he's not a good chance you can secure a few seats. The Sharia law won't work. I mean, how will he apply that into a constitutional democracy? If he wins, let's say, a metro, he may be taking a lot of votes from the Democratic Alliance in KZN. I don't know if he's intending to spread the countrywide.
Maybe even in the Western Cape.
Maybe in the Western Cape, yeah. But in KZN, he's going to take quite a number of votes from the Democratic Alliance. He's going to weaken the Democratic Alliance in local elections. And yeah, look, I wish him luck. And I don't think the Sharia law will work. He may win votes by bringing back death penalty or unban. He may win votes. There's been South Africans vote with emotions. There's been a lot of angry people who have been calling for, especially people who are directly affected by a fatal crime. You know, the people have been calling for death sentence. Bring back death sentence. Bring back. You may win few votes of people who believe in that, but we know that the local government position will not influence the change of the constitution to bring back death sentence. Tato, we are the world capital of murder. We are one of the most violent societies on earth. But trust me, in the next 20 years, I don't see South Africa changing the constitution to bring back death penalty. And I don't want the people who are pro-death penalty to be upset with me, whether I want it or not. I'm saying I don't see South Africa voting in parliament to change the constitution to can now accommodate or include that penalty. I don't see our people doing that.
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, like you're saying, that a lot of people, especially those that have been victims of crime, would be emotionally attached to someone that maybe has a solution.
Yeah.
You remember there's a case in Hanover Park, a 51-year-old man facing court over alleged rape of a 9-year-old.
Yes, I recall that case. Yeah.
And we are finding out that he was released on parole for a similar crime.
Yes.
What do you do with people who repeat offend at this level?
You know, I wish there could be a time...
Because you can't legislate a bullet to the head.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is a solution.
It's not going to work. But I wish there could be a time that one day the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Correctional Services have a meeting or a symposium and come with a position. One of the things we should do right in this country, and Tato, some of us have written papers about that. We have advised government about that. For example, in a country like Brazil, and I'll refer to Brazil a lot because I served there, and it's equal to South Africa. One of the things that Brazilians are doing, they do not group what do you call it, criminals or prisoners together. The one who stole a chicken is serving in the same prison or the section of the prison. You don't do that.
So the hardened are there.
The hardened are separated from, civil crimes or small crimes and all that. And I think that's something we must introduce in South Africa. We because you take a boy who was arrested for stealing a vehicle or housebreaking or what, and he's sentenced to a year or two because it was armed robbery with somebody who's a rapist and a killer. What happens when this young man gets into prison? They get indoctrinated because it's mixed masala. Everybody goes in there. Even if, my cousin who's a prison warder tells me that, no, there's sections in the prison that separates them, but they still meet one or the other, and the gangsterism. We should deal with our correctional services. It is not working for the country. And then issues like rape, for example, we should pass laws that says crimes like rape and murder. People must never, those kind of people, if they are found guilty and sentenced to prison for crimes like rape and murder, they must never, or even domestic violence. You understand? We are look at the GBV crime in the country, and you release those people. When I'm a violent person and I beat my spouse and I go to prison, trust me, I'll come back more angry. Understand? I was already a violent person, and violence is driven by anger most of the time.
And often in your mind, you're thinking, I was just disciplining my wife.
No, that's nonsense.
You know what I mean? No, but I'm just saying that's how people reason.
Yes.
That there are people, unfortunately, on this continent who still believe a woman and a child are categorized under the same.
Yes.
And both of them should be disciplined if needs be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're still dealing with those mindsets.
Yeah, a lot. That ego
So now that you've thrown him in jail,
he's gonna come out being a worse.
for discipline.
Yeah, he's gonna come out more angry. You have lost your job, you have lost time in jail, you have lost your life. You will be more angry. Any person you're gonna be involved with after prison service is gonna be in a serious danger. And that's why we have cases like this. That somebody was sent to jail for raping a minor child. You release that person again to the society.
Sure.
You understand? And probably he served 7 years in jail, and he was out because of parole, and he's committing offending the same offense. And then the state will categorize them as, what do they call it? Repeated offenders, serial offenders. And I know, and I think we spoke about it a few months ago, where the Department of Justice, after Minister Kubai just took over, they wanted to release the list of sexual offenders. They want to release it in public. However, our other law, POPIA, understand, Protection of Personal Information Act, didn't allow her to do that. Now they're still busy in cabinet deciding how these two laws can talk to each other. Meanwhile, the criminals
a known offender has now been transferred from one school to another.
Exactly.
But when as a parent, you don't even know that your child is now being taught by an offender who is on a list, a register. Because POPIA says.
Exactly. You understand? And this is some of the challenges that we are sitting with, that the laws that were intending to help the nation are actually to our detriment.
Sure.
And there's a challenge the country is facing. And everything is taking forever. On issues, I don't know what happened.
So can they amend POPIA
to accommodate
situations such as this?
Yes, they can't.
That surely POPIA should not apply to people who have deviated from society, because your right to privacy, when you are now a deviant,
yes,
you've become a drag of that very society. I think you should lose your right to anonymity.
That is what they are trying to do, is taking long. But remember, and me and you will talk about this forever. The Bill of Rights does not allow even a criminal or a person who has been declared a habitual criminal to lose the right to humanity. They don't allow that. That's the problem. We go back. Our Section 2 of the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, it's holding the political office bearers and lawmakers' hands. And I do not know why don't they change that part, because it is to the detriment of the nation.
Sure.
And it is making their work difficult. I don't know why don't they go there first. Look, we are in a phase. We are left. This weekend is the last weekend of the comments to the Constitution. It's over now.
Yeah.
But you will see people are talking about minor things there. I saw many of the comments that people have written there. Nobody's talking about Section 25 and the land and the crime and the rape and the murder. No. People are talking about one thing and one thing, because I'm upset. They're talking about foreign nationals who are South African citizens. Majority of the inputs that I've seen, it's people saying the Constitution must be amended to say South Africa belongs to all its citizens, because the Constitution says it's all who live in it.
Yes.
Understand? People are concerned about that because why? We are Afrophobic. We are xenophobic. We just don't want foreigners and everybody who lives here.
I don't think
they're right.
And, to a certain degree, I would not agree that South Africans are Afrophobic. I think there is a situation right now where everything is overwhelmed, that your average person kokasi gets to a clinic and there's a long queue of, more often than not, undocumented immigrants who are getting the very same service this person can't get.
Yes.
It's only a matter of time before that person starts seeing these people as a problem.
Yeah.
That I can't get basic health care, I can't get into a school, infrastructure is bursting at the seams. but people who might not even be here legally are getting the same service. People eventually become angry. And to then take a paintbrush and say, you are therefore xenophobic, you are therefore Afrophobic, I think is flawed.
Tata,
And part of the problem is maybe government not saying to these governments that whenever your national goes to our clinic, we're sending the bill to your embassy.
Okay.
You must start paying for your people. They can come and live here and everything else if they want to eke out an existence, but we're going to send you the bill. Mnangagwa should get a bill every month that this is the bill.
Mnangagwa will say, but I didn't ask my people to come there, and I didn't ask you to accept my people.
But you did not create an environment that says to your people, stay home, let's work and build either. At some stage, you must look in the mirror, like I said, and take responsibility for something.
For your people.
There's a friend of mine right now who's going through a separation and a divorce. And as much as I get where she might have wronged him, I still said to him, you must still look in the mirror and ask yourself, what could I have done differently for a different outcome? Because it's so easy to point fingers and not look in the mirror.
But Tato, the people, foreign nationals who are here, legal or illegal, their countries or statement, they don't have a problem with that. The problem is sitting with us. And if we do not create an environment whereby we can segment, not discriminate, segment how our services will go to people. We can't do that because the Constitution says we must treat everybody within who's in the Republic equally.
And unfortunately, there's no nation that segments healthcare. But there are nations that will say, we will not let you into our country unless we know you can take care of yourself. Unless we know you can take care of yourself, we're not going to let you in.
Yes.
So because you used to work for the border authority, you know that because the borders are as porous as they are, that's why there's this problem.
Not only that, not only the porous borders, Tato, I can tell you, we have approximately, the government says 4.2 million. We officials think about 6 million Zimbabweans in South Africa, of which only 2 million of them are documented, or 3 million of them. We created an environment, even if the borders were porous, but the fact that those people who enter South Africa legally or illegally, they know that once your foot is in here, you are entitled to all this good treatment and benefits. Understand? We created an enabling environment in the country, not only by not taking care of our borders, but also by having laws and rules and practices that make these people comfortable. And going back to the issue of xenophobia or Afrophobia, I will say to you, it is suppressed. It is there. The fact that when the system cannot hold anymore, or as you say, the people are angry, the fact that when people are angry, we react to these people. When we don't have jobs or spaza shops, caucus are taken by foreign nationals, what do? We get angry and we react to them. It shows that it's like racism. It's suppressed because today South Africans are blaming foreign nationals for almost everything that has gone wrong. We are failing to look at how our own government has made them to have those rights, has made the situation conducive for them. You understand? We are going to the benefactor. We are not looking at how we fail to close. Let me make an example with your own yard. If you've got your own freestanding yard and you don't have a fence, you cannot blame the hungry dog that is roaming the street to come and tip your dustbin. You cannot start looking for the owner and say, you must train your dog because you failed to secure your parameters as well. Yes, that one has failed to train their dog, but maybe he can't afford dog food. He let it roam the street to look for food. You understand? But you didn't put the fence to can stop that dog. So you both have responsibilities. We have a responsibility, and I want to own up as South African. We have a responsibility as South Africans to determine how will foreigners come to South Africa, what will we require from them, how they should conduct themselves when they are in South Africa. And in the past, I've used an example of Mr. Collins Letswalo
Sure.
at Road Accident Fund. He is fighting a lone battle, not even the ruling party that I know he belongs to is helping him. He's fighting a lone battle to say, why should we spend RAF money that amounts to billions of rands, and the majority of the claimants are foreigners with the bigger amounts? Why should we insure them for coming to our country?
Yes.
You understand?
They should enter the country insured.
They should enter the country insured.
Or say, in the absence of my being insured,
Yes.
my health is my responsibility.
Exactly. And as if something, and we are failing to pass those laws. We are failing to come with rules and regulations to regulate the people who are here. I like what Julius Malema has once said. When Julius said, we cannot take these people out. This thing, it's like putting water in a bucket with holes. We take them out because they keep on coming back. Let us find a way of regulating their stay here because they are here. Understand? And I see people complain about Mozambicans and Malawians and Somalis and Zimbabweans mainly, but we are quiet to some extent with the so-called our friends, the Pakistanis, the Bangladesh people, the Chinese, that are all over South Africa, and we don't talk about that. We don't see them as a problem, you understand? But we see the Zimbabweans as a problem. That's why I'm mentioning the Afrophobia thing. If South Africans were angry and holistically against foreign nationals doing business in South Africa, then I will not have a problem with that. All foreigners. But your constitution says all who are in the borders of this country who live here. It's in the constitution, all. That with all who are in the borders of this country. That's why you find even in key strategic positions of government, you find foreign nationals there occupying positions that South Africans can occupy.
Sure.
And then, I mean, we had that case of the Northwest Province, the CFO of the province was a foreign national. Who it was even found out that he got his resident permit illegally. You go to the Treasury, I've said it a lot, you go to the Treasury, even SARS, there are very senior officials that I worked with in the Treasury and SARS who are foreign nationals, legally in South Africa. They've got permits, they've got qualifications. And the question becomes, if you go and hire somebody to be senior manager finance at the Treasury or advisor to the DDG at Treasury or DG, wouldn't you have a South African who can do that job? So it is not only the constitution, it is not only the angry people, it is the willingness of decision makers to manage this thing. We have let things gone loose.
Are you saying between the Labour Department and Home Affairs, they need to maybe re-look at how people are allowed to live, work and stay?
My brother, I can tell you, I don't know in how many meetings of those two departments I've been in. They tried, Shem. They tried. There was even a special committee. I think it was during President Zuma's time towards the formation of the BMA, the Border Management Authority. There was even a committee between Home Affairs and Labour to look at creating a synergy between immigration and labor laws. Many. One of them, it was the truck drivers.
Oh, yes.
You understand? I know I was sitting in hundreds of meetings. We never reached consensus.
What was the problem?
Ever.
What was the problem?
For example, let me use the truck drivers as an example.
Yeah.
There were South African truck drivers, there's even an association or union of them who were saying South African companies are hiring foreign nationals to be truck drivers. You understand? The owners of these trucking companies, they were saying, yes, we are hiring them for two reasons. Well, they claimed that one, they are hard workers and they don't mind to work abnormal hours. A truck driver can be away from home for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
The second part is, and which this one, I think they had a point. I don't agree, but I think they had a point. The language proficiency.
Yes.
If you've got a truck that transports goods to the DRC, it will be much more easier for you to hire somebody who speaks French.
Okay.
You understand that problem? But Labour came with a very good counter-argument. They were saying to trucking companies, train your drivers and your employees, train them, invest in them to can be proficient in foreign languages.
Sure.
Understand?
But how many businesses do you honestly think have the time or the will even to say, okay, Botsang is a truck driver, he's fully qualified, he's got 20 years of experience, but he can't speak French, but we want to hire him because we want to teach him French?
They don't have time for that.
How many companies do you think would even want to do that?
They don't have time. They are business people.
Yes.
Two, they don't want to invest on a person they may lose to another company after. And there are laws that says do so. Where part of the labor law in South Africa talks about developing skills of your employees.
Upskilling your people, yes.
Upskilling your people.
Yes.
But they are not interested. They are not going to do that because their motive is to make profit.
I'm running a business here.
Yeah, I'm running
not a tutoring facility. And that's exactly what they're going to tell you.
Yeah. And that's why they're doing this. They're even talking about, one of the reasons they gave was like, there's so much challenges and corruption in Africa. If a truck leaves the port of Durban going to the port of Mombasa in Kenya, the countries that a driver goes through, somewhere you bribe, somewhere if you speak the local language, the locals accept you, things like that.
A friend of mine owns a logistics company. And they were taking goods, I think, from the DRC to the port of Durban. And apparently somewhere between Zambia and Botswana and here, on the manifest, the driver edited it on the manifest.
Yeah.
Because depending on the minerals or the goods you're carrying,
Yes.
you pay a different tax.
Yes.
You see?
Okay.
So the driver apparently then had edited on the manifest what they were carrying so that SARS at the border charged them for a mineral that is taxed less.
Yes.
Granted, I carry him other stuff. And he had to find out that this driver has done this, and he had to now go bail him. It was just a whole big mess. So a lot happens on these cross-border trips.
That used to be on my desk. I used to work with that almost every day.
Yeah.
Drivers arrested in foreign countries. I have to intervene. Now, the law says if there's something fraudulent, you don't only arrest the driver, you also arrest
the owner,
the tool, the truck.
Oh, yes.
That was used
you
to
impound
commit
it.
the crime. You impound the truck.
Yes.
Now people will be knocking at my door and saying, you make me miss my work now. And say, but I want my truck. They can lock up their driver, and then the cops and the courts and the law will say, no, but we must keep that truck until the case is being completed. So it's a very complex situation to be doing business, especially with labor. But I must say, I know the Department of Home Affairs as well as the Department of Labor for a number of years. They have tried to bring signage into this whole thing. And my point is they have failed because it hasn't happened. It hasn't solved the problem of dealing with foreign laborers. We did it, to some extent with Basotho who are working in South Africa to get them those special Lesotho permits. It was very easy. And you see, that's another problem that I don't understand with government and South Africans. There's almost 2 million Basotho living in South Africa and working. And nobody's complaining. We are okay with that. They've got working permits and all. We're okay with that. Why are we okay with that? Why are we not complaining about Basotho? I don't say we should. I'm a Kota Musotho, by the way. I don't say we should. But I'm saying, why that? We don't have a problem with it. We never questioned Botswana and Maswati, who are in South Africa working. Our focus is up the Limpopo. And you must ask ourselves, why are we so negative and cold? Are we seeing South Africa, Eswatini, and Lesotho as one country? We are more warm and welcoming to them than we are to other African nations.
Do you think it's a language thing? That nations that speak one of the 11 official languages blend in better anyway?
Yes, it could be the language. It could be the language that it's also going to be very difficult to be able to distinguish between a Motswana from Botswana and a Motswana from Mafike, or a Mosotho from Lesotho or Mosotho from Kwakwa in the Free State. It's going to be very difficult. Look at the proximity and the history of some parts of Mpumalanga to Eswatini.
Sure.
When you are in Piet Retief, I think you actually don't even think you are in South Africa. That's why the Swatis always say, the day we claim our land, we'll extend it to Piet Retief because South Africans don't know it belongs to us.
Yeah.
But these are some of the dynamics and challenges we are faced with in an African continent.
Absolutely.
That's why some other political parties are calling for borderless, which I don't think it will ever happen. But we need to change our laws, Kato. For me, the problem in South Africa is our laws. If we don't tighten our laws, make them more stringent, and enforce them. Because in some instances, we've got immigration and labor laws that are very good, that are well within the constitution and the practices in the world. But we are not enforcing those laws.
Yes, sir.
And the enforcement of our laws is a challenge in South Africa.
Yes, sir. May we move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to move to Parliament. Communications and Technology Minister MALATSI was grilled in Parliament a couple of days ago.
I expected that.
And, many are saying it's regarding a special favor in terms of what is now being called the STARLINK Gazette. But remember, before this so-called STARLINK Gazette was announced last week,
yes,
on this podcast, I said to you, there have been discussions with ICASA since last year about this very gazette.
Yes.
And that all it is the timing is bad. But this has been in the works anyway.
I don't think it's only the timing. You are right, and you said it last week to say, but these things have been happening. It's not only the timing, it's also the problems of the GNU. It's who is presenting that.
Yes.
You understand? The chairperson of the portfolio committee in Parliament, Mme. She's very much upset and angry with this whole thing. She's anti this whole thing. Now, the minister must be guided by ICASA as the regulatory body and reports to that parliamentary committee to can bring. Look, they're not even talking about changing the law. And this, again, what our viewers should understand. They're not talking about changing the act that makes provision or calls for, I think it's about 30% of triple BEE, a broad-based.
Basically, if you're going to set up a company from outside the country,
yes, 30%
of your shareholding must belong to a South African.
Yes. I actually learned from the ICASA advice to the minister this week that 30% is actually not even required at inception.
Yes.
In building up over the years, the target should be 30%. So they don't even require it if Tato or Elon Musk comes and opens that company here or bring the satellite here, let's say 1st of September. They don't require him to have 30% on the 1st of September. You must have a plan on how you are going to roll that out over a certain period, because that BEE, a triple BE license, it expires every year. It must be renewed so that you must demonstrate improvement of performance.
But obviously, Minister MALATSI has been defending this ICT policy directive.
Yes.
Why would it be needed if you've had multinationals already opting for equity equivalence over shareholding? Because it's been happening already. Your what is it, like IBM, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard,
yes.
Dell Technologies.
They have been. Look, Chato, it's a political thing at the moment. Remember, the Democratic Alliance is anti the triple BEE. Anyway, they are anti. So they are in government to go and push this thing aside to say, let's stop this thing of saying empowering blacks and let's focus on doing business to can create jobs. That's their language. That's what they are saying. And that's why now there's a backlash. And people were not even aware because there's a sleeping giant. You understand? It was sleeping. People were doing it. Companies have been coming to South Africa not even complying.
Yes.
But now because it is brought in by a minister of the DA and it has Elon Musk in it. And by the way, as you correctly say, I don't know why do people think if these regulations that are being proposed, because it's regulations, they're not changing the law.
Yes.
I don't know why do people think they are focusing on Elon Musk and Starlink, because any other company on earth can take advantage of that rumor opening. It can be Russian, Chinese, Pakistan, it could be any other company or even Indian.
And generally anyway, one of the reasons why especially multinationals have been allowed to opt for equity equivalence over 30% shareholding is because if you're a multinational, you're a company from China, your shareholding is there in China anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So there's no way you're going to agree to 30% ownership. But a lot of these multinationals are actually doing a good job in saying, instead of the 30% ownership, because we're from another country, this is what we'll do towards skills development, amongst other things, towards developing other parts of said industry, towards building smaller businesses.
If they do
it's been happening.
Yes.
But is it audited and are they held to account?
I think that's where the problem is. I think the monitoring committee, there is a committee that is supposed to monitor performance, and I don't think they're doing a great job in monitoring the performance of them and complying to what they said they will comply or they will do when they are in the country. And it's not only in what we call it, actually, there is a 2021 court ruling. I know the case was brought in by a mining sector issue in 2021. I can't remember the case very vivid, but I know it was brought in by the mining sector. However, that court ruling in 2021, it actually talked to the BEE sector as a whole, although it was addressing a mining sector case. But it actually made a ruling towards towards the triple BEE thing, and it actually opened up for what STARLINK wants to do in South Africa, that court ruling. And that's why the Democratic Alliance, in changing the regulation, let me not even say the Democratic Alliance, let me say the government, because as you correctly said, this thing has been on the pipeline for over a year before MALATSI was a minister.
Exactly.
It's just that this amendment or proposal or practice, it talks and it favors DA's policy of being anti-triple BEE.
Yes.
And that's what happened. That's what rattled the whole thing. But I saw also during the week that a Chinese company had said, don't take STARLINK South Africa. We'll come and contest when you open this thing, and we'll make it wholly South African at quarter the price of the Chinese, of STARLINK. The Chinese have come up and said, being a BRICS member state, being a partner, we the Chinese, we can bring the same satellites, same thing, at a quarter of the price that STARLINK is going to bring it in. Now the dynamics are going to be very interesting.
It's in fact, last week, Xi Jinping of China, there's a video that went viral of him. I don't know if they were addressing the Senate or the Parliament in China, talking about how our fellow BRICS member South Africa under siege from the Americans. But I can tell you right now that there are 500 American corporations. If they were to stop doing business with South Africa today, we will replace every single one of them within 2 weeks. Yeah. So don't worry.
The Chinese are ready to help us. The question is, do we have the appetite? Do we trust them? Do we want to do them, or we want to massage and nourish our relations with America?
Because already there are people who are saying the Starlink issue is not even just about satellite internet. It's also a security concern to have unfettered satellite access of any country.
Tato, you shared with us the statement of
Joel Netshitenzhe.
What is
Joel Netshitenzhe.
Yeah, Joel Netshitenzhe.
Yes.
Did that 2 weeks ago, and I went to check that episode 216 on this platform. I said, I do not know if our intelligence and our people think America brings STARLINK here. And I'm saying America because it's an American company.
Yes.
I don't see Elon Musk as a South African anymore. He was born here, but he's not a South African. Or his interests are not in South Africa. He wants South African money in the market. And I said 2 weeks ago, you don't realize in countries where STARLINK is operating, how they sometimes wake up and shut everything off. And imagine South Africans without internet for a week, like STARLINK is doing in other countries. But for me, I'm one of the people, Fresh, that says it's a security risk. You know, I've said also the other day when I explained about the interest of America to have military bases in South Africa or in Africa and why. And I said South Africa, it's perfectly positioned for America to can make sure that their missiles, or if they have to fight any other big war, we are better positions because of our 2 oceans, because we are the most south country in the world, and things like that, you understand? And I if I had to advise our Minister of Communication and Minister of Intelligence and the President and what, to be honest with you, I'll be very cautious in accepting STARLINK in South Africa without thinking only they are coming to put a satellite here.
So are you saying because of security concerns,
Yes,
we must rethink this?
we must rethink this.
Let me tell you why I agree with you. Because of the kind of person Elon Musk has proven himself to be. For argument's sake, the way they carried on about Starlink in Ukraine,
Yes.
almost threatening that we can switch this thing off if we want.
Yeah.
I don't know that you want someone like that having such unfettered access to such data in your country when they're so unhinged.
Exactly.
This is the same person who they reconfigured the AI Grok on X, former
yeah.
Twitter, to spew propaganda about a white genocide.
Yes.
Why would you want someone as unhinged as that?
To be in charge of your AI or electronic security.
Why would you want a person like that in your country working like that?
On politics, on security, on communication, and also for not upsetting our other partners, whether it's BRICS, whether it's bilateral.
Yeah.
I don't think President Putin will be comfortable in us sitting here with Starlink and being and we know we have military drills with him. You remember the story of what we call that ship that came to sail here in South Africa, the one that
Lady Russia.
Yes. I don't think President Putin will be, not President Xi Jinping will be comfortable in us doing that. So we'll be upsetting other partners. Let us look for neutral partners, but we have said the best fact. The main fact is we have seen how the owner of Starlink and his business partners, how they've conducted themselves, how they've behaved in other countries, and how they, as recent as last week or 2 weeks back, behaved with AfriForum and the so-called genocide in South Africa. He was fully behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, him and his right-wing neo-Nazi people who are in the cabinet of Donald Trump are behind this whole thing.
You know, there's a saying, because often people say they fear AI because the robots are going to take over. What if the robots take
I'm
over?
one of them.
There's a saying, AI is not a problem. The problem is that AI will do the bidding of human beings. That is the problem. And the fact that, and Elon has never stood up and said it was me that tried to reconfigure Grok, our AI, to start with every post, it spews propaganda about a white genocide.
Exactly.
Why would you want anyone like that controlling anything in your space?
We are having border control stresses in South Africa. We have problem of murder and let me say generally security.
Yeah.
And you want a sick person like Elon Musk to be in charge of that security
And in the
that you are
biggest,
worried about.
and in the bigger scheme of things, what's sick?
No, he's sick. I mean, they are not normal. For me, no normal human being can lie to this extent, can behave the way he's behaving. He's not a normal, he's sick. And as in, it could be, I'm not a doctor, but he is not a normal human being. He needs help. And you want a person who owns a company that may control your drones, your satellites, your military, your intelligence, and everything else in the country, your communication lines. He will be sitting there listening to whatever president of South Africa is discussing with the cabinet. And that's the risk we shouldn't take. It's good to have technology. Technology is very good. The world is moving and advancing. But once technology is going to compromise your humanity and the safety of your people, I have a problem with that. You understand what I'm saying? It's much of a challenge. Look, anybody, but not Elon Musk. If there's one person South Africa must stay very far away from, it's Elon Musk and his friends. And unfortunately, President Trump is one of his friends or business partners.
Yeah.
But they are a danger to this country. I'm telling you.
Speaking of being a danger to this country, did the Ramaphosa charm offensive in the White House succeed? Because now we found out this week that President Trump says he will be here for the G20 summit at the end of the year. Does this mean the charm offensive worked?
Papa, I know you. I don't know how much is President Ramaphosa bribing you. You are singing praises since the American thing.
No. Look, I'm commentating and talking about a match I am watching.
Look, I predicted the match that you watched because I said the day Donald Trump, whether convinced, now we even hear that Motsepe was involved. Dr. Petrus Motsepe was involved in making sure this meeting happens. Understand? I said the day President Trump decided not to blue tick President Ramaphosa, it was the day President Trump will warm up towards South Africa. Yes, some things like tariffs and AGOA may not happen, but I knew the day he accepted this meeting, and I don't think it's only the charm. I think the charm didn't play a big role. I think they went there. The deal was done.
Sure.
Dr. Motsepe, and Trump warms up to business people. Dr. Motsepe, the golfers led by who's this guy, Rupert.
If you play golf or you're a billionaire, you have his ear.
Yeah, you understand? So I think it was done. I also think President Ramaphosa being brought there and told, you must behave like a little boy. Don't rattle anything. Things will work out fine. I think it worked. That's what you call a charm. I don't think there was a charm. I think it was behaving. Go there and behave. Last week I critiqued point by point how the blacks there were not talking. They were just bakapile mahu. And I still stand by what I said last week, but you can see that it was a grand plan to say who you call a child. I see so many people are now saying he's child. It's like you always say, for this child to behave.
I've been saying Trump is childish for the last 10 years now. 10 years.
Okay. So I think their behavior is not charm. To behave, to keep quiet like a little boy, it's what worked. But I think the grand plan was done before, 2-3 weeks back before they went there. I said to you, you will see how President Trump will come to the G20, not this participation of committees. And I said to you, in my thinking, the reason he will come is because America will know that if this ship sail, they will be left behind because very critical trade decisions may be taken in the G20, that America is a founder of the G20.
And they're the next chairperson.
And their next chairperson. I said, they are not that stupid. I did say it. They are not going to miss that. You see, I said before, President Trump came and rattled the world. Pressed wrong buttons like a DJ, pressed everything and there's noise everywhere and everybody's dancing for music they don't understand. But he did it purposefully so that when people wake up, then they must start saying, where are we with this music? You understand? People woke up, they were dancing, it was chaos, and he created chaos in order to see who is sitting where, who is standing where, and trust me, it's working for the Americans. People say the Americans are losing, they're not. They've checked who are our friends, who's scared of us, who's prepared to take us on. Now they can go and make plans. Because they know that China, we are not going to mess up with them. Russia has one of the fastest growing economy in the world now, while they are under trade embargo or sanctions. So they know who not to mess up with. And I think if you know who your enemies are, who your friends are, and who are threat setters who are scared of me, you are in a better position to manipulate them. Trump is going to start manipulating South Africa. And you will see this is where he's going to expose the strength of our leadership to say, can they really put their foot down? I was listening to President Ramaphosa during some questions in Parliament this week, talking and saying things that he was supposed to say when he was in America. The right things. Our Constitution, the lies, the videos, things that he knew, things that he could have said when he was in the Oval Office. He was saying them when he was back at home, and people were asking, why is President Ramaphosa saying these things when he's back home, when he could have told Trump that? But as you correctly or usually say, he knew that if he can say and tell Trump, this is a lie and this is not how things work, that little man you call a child, he may throw toys out of the court. And that may have worked, the strategy, but we cannot be seen as a nation without a backbone. That when Trump call us or anybody, we go there begging and say, no, we'll behave. We cannot be seen like that. Yes, we must be strategic and diplomatic, but you cannot compromise your principles. You cannot fail to quote your own constitution. You cannot fail to do that. For me, that's a failure. It's not a strategy. Because the president of the republic is the president of the republic because of the constitution of the republic.
Yes.
Now, if he fails to defend and use the constitution of the republic against his counterpart, no matter how powerful you are, It's the constitution of the country. For me, it's an absolute failure.
Yes, sir.
Although the charm has went, and what if Trump comes here for the G20? What are we going to benefit? What are we benefiting from these things?
What are we benefiting from the entire G20 meeting here? We might as well ask that question then.
The few hotels will be booked. They are fighting between Cape Town and Joburg. Few hotels will be booked, tourism and all that. But that's it after. But who benefits, Tato? We are in so many. I was listening to President Ramaphosa during the week. And that's why I don't like Parliament. This question and answers. He goes there. Other parties ask. Peter Melder of the Freedom Front Plus. He was sitting there asking questions to say, Mr. President, your previous administration and that you have been talking about job creation, investment, economic growth, fighting inflation, fighting crime. Which of those things have happened?
Yes.
Which of those things that the government has been talking about and planning for a very long time have happened? Tato, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I'm challenging every politician, to tell me, and I don't want to go very back with the ANC 25 years. No, I want to say the last 6 years, the government has been talking about fighting crime, unemployment, security of the country, borders, and laws and whatever. Which of in the economy, the inflation, and which of those things have been achieved? None. Now the president goes to Parliament. Political parties ask questions. The ANC members, they clap hands the whole day, clapping hands when Ramaphosa responds. Now, what is he saying? We are going to create this grand society, we'll create jobs, investors will come. I've been hearing that since 1994. I've been hearing the same story, and we are going down. They remove VAT to pass the budget. They take this levy, VAT is a levy, they move it to fuel levy. Oh, and South Africans and MPs are very happy. We don't see him in Mashaba. They just take this tax and they move it to fuel levy, and everybody's happy. What kind of accountability and politicians and thinkers do we have? So are we saying everybody in that parliament, 400 people, none of them doesn't see anything wrong there? The increment of VAT, actually they're going to get more money now because fuel levy is more expensive.
Yes.
And the percentage they are moving to fuel levy.
But which means the cost of food is going to go up.
Yes, the cost of fuel and the cost of food and
the cost of
everything
public
else.
transport, which transports majority of workers in this country,
Yes.
is public transport. That is also going to go up.
Exactly. The cost of transporting food and goods and everything. And people are happy. People are quiet with that budget. You know, when they say, what is this guy's name, the Minister of Finance? What is his name? Mr. Godongwana. He tripled them. But also this happened when the head of state and the deputy head of state, they were out of the country. And then everybody last week on Wednesday was focusing on Donald Trump. When Donald Trump policies or budget was being passed in parliament to create an environment for businesses to grow, where is the Democratic Alliance and Action SA about the fuel? Where are they? Where are they not challenging it? This week, the city of Joburg, MMC for Finance, was presenting the budget for the city, which is supposed to be effective 1st of July, because the financial year of the city starts 1st of July.
Yeah.
Action SA said they're not going to vote with them because of the 200 electricity levy that they said they went into power with ANC.
I was going to say, but were they not promised that levy would follow it?
That was the agreement.
Yes.
That was the agreement to vote for Dada Moiloa to become a mayor.
Yes.
They are fighting. But what are they saying about the national interest? Understand? About the fact that we are going to pay more for fuel levy at the moment. We have been complaining as South Africans that fuel is very expensive in South Africa, not because of the price of fuel, but because of the fuel levies. There's about 3 levies that are in the fuel levy system. We've been complaining. They're taking it up, and MPs are clapping hands because they don't buy fuel. They use our taxes for cars and aeroplanes that transport them, and the voters are quiet. I saw somebody wrote that, see, these people who are voting for these things, we'll meet them at the ballot box. The only thing that we have is the ballot box. We must wait for the elections to come, And then that's the only way we can punish them.
Yeah.
But we can't punish them because they go and gang up against the nation. You know, I call it that. I'm saying the MPs, that we split their votes. We created MK, EFF, Action SA, Patriotic Alliance. These criminals, they went and they ganged up together with the DA and ANC that have been misleading this country. They've ganged up and they came with Government of National Unity. It's the same bunch of people that we thought were bringing the gating mechanisms.
So are you saying the electorate are losing ultimately?
We are the losers.
Because why is it called a democracy if we vote for X amount of people and then the very same people who are voting against are back in anyway?
Yeah. They're doing exactly what was happening for. So the voters, that's where democracy fails. That's why voting, it's a waste of time. Because you put Herman Mashaba there, Musi Maimani, Gaten McKenzie, and Dr. Shope, and you are saying to them, go and help Julius and his gang to remove this monster called the ANC or the DA. They must stop behaving against the will of the people. Because when you vote for parties that were never in power, that's what you are saying. We are deploying them.
I want an alternative.
I want an alternative. What did our alternative do? They went into bed with the two people that we don't want them, with the ANC and the DA. That's what they exactly did. All MK and EFF can sit and say, we are members of the opposition. We remain in the opposition benches. We have listened to our electorate. But Action as a Musi Maimani, a Patriotic Alliance, and who's the other new one? All these new ones that are now having seats in parliament, for me, they have betrayed the electorate by going to bed with the ANC and the DA that the people wanted to remove. That's betrayal of the electorate. If these new parties could have went to bed with the opposition, because we wanted them to be the opposition, we want to be the vanguards and the watchers of the ANC and the DA. Let them continue to misrule and misgovern the country. It's okay. We'll meet them at the ballot box to remove them with more margins in future. No. These small political parties, they've saved the ANC. They've put the ANC back into power. And ANC is back in power. Not only because of the president. They've got the majority of ministers. They still control state entities and departments. And at whose expense? At the voters' expense. So the loser in South Africa is the voter and an ordinary citizen. That's my analysis and assessment. The loser is the people. It's why are we losing? Because of the people we are putting into those positions. They are untrustworthy. They don't care about the people. They care about occupying power positions and being on the gravy train.
What do you say to a person who says, I prefer a government of national unity because now I know they are checking one another. The checks and balances where ordinarily there might not have been, and there's a better likelihood of me getting the services I voted for.
Do you think the GNU has been, it's a year now, in a sense, it's a year there. Do you think they're checking on each other? What can, in 1 year, and I want to be fair on them, what can we say they have done for the last 1 year that has demonstrated a paradigm shift and a benefit to the nation? One thing, just tell me one thing they have done in 1 year compared to a year before. One. I don't want mean one. For me, nothing. There's still corruption. The service delivery is collapsing. Oh, by the way, we're Gauteng for the next 4 days. We don't have water, or our water is limited. I was carrying packets. Yeah? Things are worse. Actually, I can tell Brother Gaten McKenzie that, my bro, you must be joking when you say it's nice in the joint. It's nice for you. It's nice for you and your MPs. Things are worse. Yes, they will say it's because of the wrongs that the ANC have done. But in the last 1 year, and I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic.
Sure.
Crime has gone up. Cases are delayed in court. There's more people stealing from government coffers. The infrastructure is collapsing. And people will say, you are unfair, they're just 1 year. But do one thing that will make people say, this GNU, one thing they should have done is to expose each other's criminal behavior and activities. The national, what do you call it, national public, NPA. Since GNU, NPA has lost almost all cases. Major, what do you call them? What do you call these cases? The major cases, the big cases. All of them, they are withdrawing, they are losing, they are messing up. We spend millions of rands. And I tell people to extradite a person, it costs millions because there's a lot of work done before the vehicle. We were with cameras at the airport when we brought that lady, and that is Makashuna's former PA from the US. There were cameras, we've got her, the Americans have signed. And the MPA comes and tells us this past week that, oops, we made a mistake. We forgot that the Americans will sign the extradition form on condition we don't charge her for fraud and corruption. Hi, my daughter. What was that woman wanted for? Was it not fraud and corruption? You understand?
So why did they sign then?
Exactly. Oh no! Remember, South Africa then said we want her to become a witness against a state witness. You want to force a person to be a state witness, and you still expect a person will justify honestly, cooperate when you are forced. No, Tato man, no. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a prosecutor. But how does the minds of these people work?
Yeah.
It's the same as the soccer coach. South Africa playing France, in France being coached by a French coach and captained by a French man who created an own goal against South Africa. And people thought that was magic. It's the same thing. You know, how do we think? What kind of civil servants are we that we are even failing on basics? Where are experts in the NPA? Where are experts in the presidency, in the Ministry of Communication? Where is our intelligence that can, and you know, somebody asked me, Botsang, do we still have intelligence? I said, yes, because we have a minister who's earning money for that job. We have employees coupling. What are they doing?
Sure.
And but I don't want people to think I'm negative to us. I love my country. I love the government. I know we are a good country. We are a good government. We just need to get things done.
On that note, we are done. We're out of time.
Thank you, my brother.
Where do we find you online?
botsangm@gmail.com. There's the email. And on WhatsApp, it's 083-884-7787. And on social media handles, @botsangm. In all handles.
Another bumper episode. Thank you, Brabi.
Thank you, Tato.
Always fun and games.
I'm telling you, you must tell your viewers and followers, I'm not grooving with you anymore. I'm done.
I took him to Vinnie Da Vinci's birthday celebration on Saturday. He's only recovering now.
Yeah.
A week later.
Yeah, no, guys. I don't know how you're coping.
Yeah,
done. We must go out for lunches like we used to do. This goo. No. I listen to good house music online or on my CDs, by the way. I still have my CDs.
But you're in your element there. Every video I see, you're there in the background, watch Aiva or...
I enjoy it, but you didn't tell me, it's 12 o'clock, let's go and sleep. It looks like everything started at midnight. Then I got home at 3 a.m. and I was sleeping from 3 a.m. Sunday until Tuesday, trying to recover.
Don't worry, Sunday morning I prayed for you at church.
Yeah, no.
Also, you've recovered. Anyway, Botsang, thank you very much.
Thanks, brother, man.
We are done. Thank you for, as always, trusting us with your time on this Saturday morning. And for those of you that watch much later, thank you. We appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, and share. Very, very important. Coming to you from AMP Studios, downtown Johannesburg. AMP Studios is home to almost 100 podcasts and counting. Yours could be next. So please, let's fight to keep AMP Studios open. We're also part of the Africa Podcast Network. Email waw@africapodcastnetwork.com. Shout out Trevor and his crew for all of the cinematography, YBF for all of the behind-the-scenes footage and social media stuff, and our executive producer, Keletso Modisake. But most importantly, thank you to you. Until next week, have a great week in spite of yourselves. We're out of here.